Ახლა მინდა სიტყვა გადავცე ბატონ ხატუხაკობიან, რომელიც ისაუბრებს სწორედ ტრენდებზე სომხეთის რესპუბლიკაში და აქვე მინდა ვთხოვოთ და აქვე დასვა კითხვა იმის შესახებ თუ რა რესურსებს ხედავთ თქვენ სომხეთში დემოკრატიული განვითარებისათვის.
Thank you, Nino. Thank you, Heinrich Stiftung Caucasus branch for having me here. It's always nice to be in Tbilisi. You didn't mention, Nino, the most important part of my life. I studied back to 2002 in Tbilisi. So I will be very brief, to leave more time for debate or Q&A. But just let me quickly read my prepared presentation. A week ago, the informal meeting of the Collective Security Treaty Organization took place. The president of Armenia did not take part in it. Some experts in Armenia thought that this was an official démarche by which the Armenian side wanted to show its dissatisfaction with Moscow's policy. Although both at the territory of the former Soviet Union and in the West, they say that Armenia and Russia are strategic partners, a large part of which of course is true, but I can bring dozens of other cases that show that sometimes Armenia is unhappy with the policy that Moscow maintains in southern Caucasus. Why I did start with the Armenian-Russian relations? Because among the internationally recognized republics of the South Caucasus, Armenia's dependence on Russia, unfortunately, from military, economic, political, and psychological point of view is obvious. And regardless of what kind of anti-Russian accents exist among states and experts in the West, it's also obvious that Russia continues to be a major player in the South Caucasus. Maybe many do not like this, but the sense of reality in this case is more robust approach. Maybe it is not good that Russia has the greatest influence on the developments in the South Caucasus, but this is the reality. I will divide my presentation into three main parts, each one 3-4 minutes. The domestic situation in Armenia, foreign policy, and the economic situation in Armenia. Armenia's foreign policy dependence on Russia has several main reasons. First, and the main one, which is not widely covered, is Armenia's relations with its immediate neighbors, Turkey and Azerbaijan. More than 80% of Armenia's borders are under a blockade. Of course, there will be a people here who will say it's Armenia's fault that Armenia is cornered, is isolated. But at this point, I am just stating the reality. As long as Turkey keeps Armenia border under blockade, does not establish diplomatic relations with Armenia, meanwhile Azerbaijan unfortunately is threatened by war, Armenia sees deepening military political cooperation with Russia as the main direction for securing its safety. Russia has been an important partner during all three presidents and governments of Armenia. The peak of Armenian-Russian relations, and this is my personal opinion of course, was during the first president when Leon Petrosyan and Boris Yeltsin had warm personal relations. It's true that during Petrosyan, the Russian military base was deployed in Gyumri, the second largest city in Armenia, near the Turkish-Armenian border. And the Armenian-Iranian and Armenian-Turkish border protection was also put on Russian border guards as well. However, until 1998, when Petrosyan was removed from power as a result of Velvet Revolution, or we journalists also call it Palace coup d'etat, Armenian-Russian relations were still cooperative. During Robert Kocharyan's presidency, the partnership slowly but gradually turned into dependence. Armenia began to transfer its energy system and other infrastructure to Russia and Russian This is unfortunate. As a result, in order to extract something from Armenia, Russia started putting the economic instruments into use. I should also note that in general, Robert Kocharyan had a good personal relationship with Vladimir Putin. The relations between the current President Serge Sargsyan and Vladimir Putin are not that kind of friendly. The reason is simple. When in 2008, after the South Ossetian War between Russia and Georgia, Mr. Saakashvili visited Yerevan. Serge Sargsyan ordered him a medal, and this episode infuriated Mr. Putin. Of course, certainly personal ties are important, but the state interest is supreme. Today, the Armenian-Russian relations have entered the next phase of tension. Russians are selling the gas in very high prices, which will result in widespread price rise in our country. Armenia's authorities have no leverage to prevent inflation, which can lead to social unrest. During his 10 years presidency, Kocharyan yielded almost all of the energy resources to Russia, and now there is not a thing that Sargsyan can give to Russia to get cheap gas. Armenia's most important partner is Georgia, and that is not because I studied in JIPA and I spent 1 year in Georgia. Regardless of who is in power in Georgia, there is a realization in Armenia that Georgia has invaluable importance for Armenia. The reason is not only that the overland route from Armenia to Russia is through Georgia. I would like to mention a number of other factors that are much more important. More than 70% of Armenia's foreign trade is through Georgia, the ports of Poti and Batumi, and the Georgian railway. Given that Turkey and Azerbaijan are trying to isolate Armenia from the regional economic and political projects, they try to bring Georgia against Armenia, in which, fortunately, they do not succeed. Therefore, strengthening Armenia-Georgia cooperation is very important. In Armenian official and political discourse circles, there is an understanding that Georgia is important for Armenia because Georgia is the de facto link between the two Turkic republics, Turkey and Azerbaijan. Both are main trade partners of Georgia. The Turkey-Georgia-Azerbaijan cooperation will result in Armenia's isolation. Thus, Armenia has no alternative but to deepen economic and political relations with Georgia and keep Armenia-Georgia relations at a high level. There is a title, South Caucasus, 3 countries, 1 region. I think that we can talk about divided region. Why? Look, if you look at the map, you will see several dividing lines in our region, in South Caucasus. Armenian-Turkish border is closed, first dividing line. Armenian-Azerbaijani border is closed, this is the second one. Karabakh, Azerbaijan borders, or line of contacts as it's called internationally, not only dividing line, but it's a main line. The fourth dividing line is between Georgia and Russia. Also, there are 2 dividing lines between South Ossetia and Georgia and Abkhazia and Georgia. So we have a lot of dividing lines, and I do believe that we Armenians and Georgians, Georgia should cherish Armenian-Georgian relations to prevent new dividing line in our volatile region. There is nothing much to say about Turkey and Azerbaijan because there is no progress in the Karabakh issue. It has been 20 years that Turkey connects the improving relations with Armenia with the progress in Karabakh conflict, which would satisfy the minimum expectations in demands of Azerbaijan. Relations between Armenia and Iran can be described as neighborly. All 3 presidents of Armenia understood one simple thing, and in this sense have kept the country away from adventures, from gamble, let us say. Small countries such as Armenia cannot impose their interests. Small countries should try to combine the interest with that of major powers, geopolitical centers. Armenia never tried to expect benefits from Russia, USA, and Russia-Europe confrontations. I am ready to express the most criticizing words addressed to the authorities of Armenia, not only Sargsyan government or Robert Kacharian or first president, but from the other hand, I think that all the presidents of Armenia and all governments of Armenia acting in a right way, not try to play dangerous games on great powers confrontations. Armenia is aware of its size and abilities and tries to deepen the cooperation step by step with the United States and major European countries. Armenia is also strengthening the cooperation with NATO and the European Union without declaring that it intends to join these organizations. On the one hand, Armenia's accession to the EU and NATO is not realistic, as it is the case with, I think, with Georgia and Azerbaijan in coming 10, maybe 20 years. Therefore, what is the point to make nervous Russia once more? I think the assessment given to Armenia that it is a semi-democratic or hybrid state that struggles between democracy and authoritarianism is correct. Without doubt, Armenia is not an authoritarian state, but just as surely it is not really a democratic one. For me, the most important indicator for democracy are the elections. It's true that all of Armenia's presidential elections were competitive. The authorities have always tried to make sure that the main opposition candidate is excluded to the background, but in all cases it failed. A few months ago, presidential elections were held in Armenia, and Rafi Hovhannisyan, the leader of the opposition, according to official data, received 37% of the vote. As I remember, in Azerbaijan, in 1992, Mr. Suleymanov, the opposition candidate at that time, received 30% of vote, and in Georgia in 2008, during the presidential election, Mr. Gachichiladze received 28%, and those figures are the best in Georgia and in Azerbaijan. Yes, the presidential elections in Armenia are always competitive, but the main problem is that opposition fails to turn the de facto victory into de jure. In the beginning of 1990s, Armenia was considered as an oasis of democracy in the South Caucasus. During the last years, at that time, Georgia and Azerbaijan, especially Georgia was in a very bad situation, not only economic, but we remember the war between Abkhazia and Georgia. Before that, with South Ossetia, also the civil war in Georgia, in Tbilisi. And during the last years of Leon Petrosyan's and the first years of Robert Kacharian's presidency, Armenia, unfortunately, was deprived of that beneficial label, the oasis of democracy in South Caucasia. There are problems in terms of freedom of press in Armenia, of course. During presidency of all three presidents, the TV companies have been under their control, especially in the pre-election and post-election period. In comparison with the situation in the last 10 or 20 years, not much has changed. However, something has changed. There is a very actively developing online television network, which is in many cases replaces traditional television. Armenia's main challenge today, in my opinion again, are the political and economic monopolies. Yes, in Armenia the opposition is stronger, probably stronger than in Georgia than in Azerbaijan, but On the other hand, it should be noted that the current government and the ruling Republican Party holds all economy and all profitable businesses in its grip. Today, the main power base of Armenia's authorities is the oligarchy. The democratic economic market is concentrated in the hands of big businessmen, which are mainly authorities' favorite businessmen. And I have 3 minutes, and I will talk about Armenia's economic and foreign economic relations. In terms of foreign trade, Russia is in the first place as a state, but as a unit, as an entity, the main trading partner of Armenia is European Union. Among neighbors, the Armenian-Azerbaijani trade, as in the past, today is 0. Indeed, from time to time, through Georgia, some products from Armenia appear in Azerbaijan, Armenian cognac, brandy, and vice versa. I remember several years ago, you should find Azeri tea in Armenian and in Nagorno-Karabakh shops. And now, as I said, the turnover is 0, and sometimes we see products from Armenia appear in Azerbaijan and vice versa, which is good opportunity for nationalists to raise another hysteria in both countries. I mean, there is trade with Turkey through Georgia, which is growing over the past year. Although, as I mentioned, the Armenian-Turkish border is closed. And according to official data, the Armenian-Turkish trade amounted to about 200 to 300 million US dollars. The Armenian-Georgian trade is not significant, although Georgia has always been in the top 10 trading partners of Armenia. The same applies to Iran. Because of international pressure on Iran, the Armenian-Iranian trade relations suffer. And as I said, a large part of Armenia's infrastructure is under Russia's control or management. The dependence is particularly evident in the energy sector. And I would like just to mention 2 contradicting realities. Well, the European Union often criticizes that Armenia's economy, first of all, the energy system, is running under the control of the Russians, which is, as I said, true. But when the Armenian authorities tried to build a new nuclear power plant, no European country wanted to make investments. The same applies to the United States of America. Washington often criticized Armenia for cooperation and good neighborhood with Iran, but does not do anything to push and pressure its strategic ally Turkey to end the blockade of Armenia. Well, around 60% of Armenia's export is in the mining, first of all copper, molybdenum, gold. Gradually, this sector also passes under Russian companies. Russian capital is significant in the banking system too. And my last paragraph. It should be also noted that most of the international monetary transfers, about 80%, comes from Russia. Indeed, hundreds of thousands of Armenians live in the United States and France and in other countries, but the principal amount, moreover, to the middle and lower class families is coming from Russia itself, because for seasonal work, Armenians prefer Russia. Thank you, and we will have, I hope, more room for debate and for discussion and for Q&A. Thank you.